The movie begins and we see a couple. The male's call is Hanif. He become going someplace together along with his spouse and 3 children. In fact, he become an orphan who become followed via way of means of a person. He spent his early life in an orphanage domestic, now its proprietor become sick. They had been going to that orphanage domestic to look him. They had been using the auto, meanwhile, they sense that something is collapsed with their car. They get off the auto and see. There become a useless deer on the nook of the road. They sense sad. But they pass from there. When they pass, we're proven that a lady is on the nook of the road and he or she becomes soaked in blood. We cannot choose become she alive or useless. Soon they attain that orphanage domestic. Reaching there, Hanif sees his many early life pals. They develop up with him inside the orphanage domestic. They additionally come to realize approximately the proprietor. So all of them get satisfied after assembly every other. Hanif involves realize that besides for 2 children all had been followed. Those children develop up on this orphanage domestic. And they nevertheless stay here. These early life pals have grown elder and a lady besides them named Ronnie. She suggests Hanif and others the orphanage domestic with every other lady. Ronnie tells very lots approximately her. That she involves this orphanage while she become of 10 years. Well, she says that I consider that my mom will go back to take me. She suggests them, all their rooms. During this, Hanif's son named Haqi become going to a room. Its door become closed for decades and Ronnie sees him. She begins off evolved telling me approximately that room. That a few years earlier than there has been a caretaker of this orphanage domestic, she lives on this room. But she stated approximately a lady that she is haunted. And she is possessed and he or she screams at that lady. Soon that lady become misplaced and none is aware of approximately her. That caretaker become long past insane. None can manipulate her. The orphanage control determined to imprison her in her room. She become locked in her room. She shouted loads that a person ought to convey her out. She begins off evolved hitting her head with the door. But earlier than the door is opened she become useless. Till then this door is closed. Haqi receives scared and he is going to his father Hanif. There Hanif become additionally speaking approximately this even as displaying the photograph of the caretaker. That she become mad. Well, all of them have dinner. Now while Hanif is going to his car he receives astonished after seeing his car's front. There become blood and a bit of material on his car's bonnet. Hanif receives suspicious that it become the deer, he collapsed or a person else. He is going to that area together along with his pal. The deer become nonetheless there. But his pal sees that there may be a lady on the alternative aspect of the road. She become nonetheless there and he or she become useless. With it, there has been a bus that become an orphanage home's bus. There had been many toddlers had been interior that bus. They move with inside the bus and spot that each one the toddlers had been injured. When they see they arrive to recognize that their faces had been ruined and that they had been killed badly. Surely, this wasn't a coincidence. Those youngsters had been killed willingly. They had been stunned via way of means of all this. And they named the police. But there has been a community hassle. They assumed that they ought to take that lady to the orphanage with them. Because the police station become at a much distance from here and once they attain the orphanage a person asks them, this time from wherein you're coming and he sees the useless frame of that lady of their car. Hanif tells him all of the incidents. That I hit that lady with my car. They all get scared and the most unearthly component is that I actually have visible a bus there. There had been many useless youngsters in it and calls a person immediately. But there has been a community hassle so the decision could not area. That boy says to Hanif and his partner that I will move there and spot. How did this incident happen? He on my own movements to that road. Going there, he is going with inside the bus and sees that the youngsters had been now no longer useless. They had been status with inside the different direction earlier than he is going close to them and sees he receives scared. He attempts to get off the bus. But earlier than this, the door of the bus become closed. He stays at the bus. Meanwhile, he feels that there may be a person outdoor the bus in a black costume. While seeing them the youngsters with inside the bus commenced moving. Many bugs had been popping out of something with inside the bus. Those bugs move with inside the frame of that guy. It is a completely creepy scene. That guy dies due to the one's bugs. On the alternative aspect, we see a lady there has been a knife and apple in her hand. She becomes seeing herself with inside the mirror. She feels that she is fats even as seeing with inside the mirror. She begins off evolved slicing her frame even as seeing with inside the mirror. It looks as if this lady is likewise possessed. None can damage their personal frame like this. On every other aspect, we see one extra lady who become drowsing on her bed. But a few worms fell on her. Those worms move interior her frame. She feels pain. Meanwhile, the husband of that lady arrives, the lady who becomes slicing herself after seeing with inside the mirror. He receives scared after seeing her. But whilst that lady involves her senses, she sees her situation and receives scared. She faints once more. Seeing this circumstance of his spouse, he without delay calls Hanif and his spouse. Meanwhile, that female whose frame became packed with worms additionally arrives there. She vomits blood and plenty of worms pop out of her frame. But still, a few worms had been in her frame and that they had been slithering in her frame. Because of it, she became feeling creepy. She begins off evolved peeling off her skin to take out the worms from her frame. However, her circumstance became getting worse. Now Hanif's spouse whilst using the automobile taking them to the hospital to understand that what is the trouble with them. But right here something abnormal happened. Because they flow to the hospital, however they once more come to the orphanage domestic. This approach their course became a cube. It became repeating once more and once more. They come to be involved approximately this. Here Hanif tells a element that the caretaker of this orphanage domestic. She became a awful female. It is the incident earlier than 25 years, she oppresses the youngsters. Because she practices black magic and due to it, she sacrificed 3 youngsters. But Hanif and his buddies have visible it. Before she holds them, they run from there. Those had been the buddies who had been collectively yet. But one in all them became killed at the bus. Might be feasible that the caretaker continues to be in the back of them, that is why after they had been escaping from there they once more attain the orphanage domestic. It approach now their course became modified right into a loop. The proprietor of that orphanage domestic additionally involves understand it. So he stated to the youngsters that we can imprison this caretaker in her room. Hanif and his buddy did not inform this to absolutely everyone earlier than. But these days they have got shared this element. That we've buried that caretaker after her dying at the ground of that room. On the opposite side, we see Hanif's elder son and he staples his lips with a stapler. Meanwhile, we additionally see Haqi he became gambling a video on a video player. But then he sees a person's face that became dreadful. 7:26 He runs to his elder brother. His elder brother became now no longer in his control. He shoots him with a gun. But it did not damage him. Because rats had been shot with that gun. Meanwhile, Hanif and his spouse additionally come there and that they had been making plans to transport from right here with their youngsters. They could not locate their sons. Then Hanif's spouse is going to the room of the proprietor. He became mendacity on his mattress and became sick. She sees beneath his mattress she reveals a box. There had been a few pictures in it. Those had been of a few ladies and seeing them it became clear that this ill proprietor wasn't an awesome guy. He beats the ladies. He used to misbehave with them. The caretaker whom we information evil, clearly she became so nice. She desired to store the ladies from that proprietor. He would not need to show his secret. Why do not I make this tale with the youngsters? That this caretaker is horrific and possessed. That's why she became locked in a room in order that she might be killed there and might be buried there. They assume that if this proprietor became a horrific guy, then who's doing all this? Due to the fact the proprietor is ill. They suspect Ronnie. Maybe the proprietor abused her and attempts to kill her. That's why she is taking revenge on all. Meanwhile, she additionally comes there. She tells them, no, perhaps that caretaker is doing all this. The caretaker became killed brutally. Meanwhile, the lady additionally comes out whom they had been wondering is lifeless after collapsing in Hanif's automobile. She tells them that what took place to them. We all had been going to the picnic from the orphanage home. But then a lady in a black get-dressed comes on our bus. When she comes all youngsters had been possessed and that they lose their control. This took place due to black magic. She became announcing a few magical spells, however I became spared and wasn't possessed in them. Because there had been headphones on my ears and I did not pay attention the magical spells. But as I noticed the youngsters I run from there. I cover with inside the fields after which Hanif uncle's automobile hits me. But I am now no longer lifeless. It smiles my good fortune that I am nonetheless alive. I am telling you the whole thing after coming right here so you can parent out it, that what took place clearly. Hanif feels horrific that the caretaker wasn't a horrific girl. Hari became regretting on it that why he killed her on that proprietor's announcing. He is going in anger to press the neck of that proprietor, due to the fact he became competitive with him, however his spouse stops him to do this. Hanif reveals a picture there, and there has been that lady's call became written at the back of the photo. The lady who became lacking. Now he became information, perhaps she is the lady who's doing all this. They had been approximately to transport from right here, however Hanif's son comes there. They had been injured. They had been going out, however a girl in a black get dressed is available in the front of them. She became the identical lady who became lacking a few years before. That girl begins off of all doing black magic, whilst the use of that method she became approximately to press Hanif's neck. She additionally possessed Nadya, who became approximately to kill her. Ronnie comes from at the back of and hits her. Do you recognize who became Ronnie? She became the daughter of the lady sporting a black get dressed. She begins off evolved giving ache to the humans gift with inside the orphanage. Someone suffers from frame ache and a person's palms have been broken. Then they arrive to that room wherein that caretaker turned into buried. The candles have been blowing there, it matter there may be a few ritual perform. Hanif's spouse asks that female that why are you doing this? Okay, we agree that you may supply ache to them who killed then female, however why you killed the one small kids. That woman says that it turned into better and if they may stay right here they may additionally be misbehaved. It's appropriate that I killed them. Then that female says to Hanif's spouse that your husband turned into additionally protected in all this. That's why if you may kill your husband then I will can help you pass from right here together along with your sons. Hanif's spouse could not do this. Meanwhile, their elder son named Haqi stabs that female. The female turned into in a black dress. While seeing, Hanif's spouse cuts her neck. Her neck detaches from her frame. But she joins her neck once more. She turned into coming once more to assault them. But Hanif's spouse throws the one's candles on her that have been blown for rituals. This turned into the handiest component that could kill her. Because those ritual candles have a variety of powers. And that woman dies due to it. Here her black magic additionally removes. The possessed humans come to their senses. They get geared up to transport from the orphanage home. But they could not take out that proprietor from there as it turned into the time for him to get punishment for his sins. Now we see the scene after a few days, Hanif's spouse turned into going to take her sons from school. But then outdoor the car, the shadow of that woman is shown whom they killed a few days before. When she comes out she did not discover that woman anywhere. Thank you for watching. The Queen of Black Magic was released in the year 2019 and is directed by Kimo Stamboel. It's an Indonesian horror film. The main cast of the movies are Ario Bayu as Hanif, Hannah Al-Rashid as Nadya, Adhisty Zara as Dina, Muzakki Ramdhan as Haqi and Ari Irham as Sandi. The film got 6.5 out of 10 rating by IMDb.